see you confused, let me say it plain.
Hello, everybody, or whoever listens to this. Some of you who have been listening to me in the past may start to notice some subtle shifts in how I show up in the world. Other folks who have come across this video for the first time, you're going to have to look at past videos or something like that to get a sense of what I'm talking about. But in the video that's coming after this one, you are going to hear a story of an encounter that I had with an unhoused individual who I feel was of extreme high service to me on my spiritual journey. And yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of candid, so I don't have like this isn't scripted, it's just me kind of talking. But basically, I was extremely rageful and angry a few days back because of an racist incident. And even though on my own, I knew that I've handled incidents way worse than that plenty of times and stayed in my field of consciousness, when it was aimed at my child, I saw that there's a part of me, it was like, got me in a way that I have never gotten. And the feelings I felt were pretty intense. And I realized that the same hate that was projected at us had kind of almost like infected me a little bit, like a cold or something like that. And I did not want to give over to that, even though my body was definitely trying to. So I had to force my body to have an encounter that would kind of counteract that negativity and that hate with some love. And this is the story of that. And so I hope for those of you who have justifiable anger, I'm not going to act like we don't, because I have justifiable anger, but I also have the presence of mind and consciousness to know that anger doesn't last forever and it's not an infinite source of fuel and creativity. It can turn into that, but there's something beyond that. And that is what I am trying to walk towards and live in. And so I had to not let the anger take me to lower levels. So anyway, I hope you get something out of this. Sorry my voice is so boring and what's it called? Like kind of monotone. But that's actually my natural voice. I'm naturally a monotone person. So if I don't sound monotone, it's because I'm pushing to not sound monotone and I'm just not there yet. So yay!
They've always been the same me.
So this is my first time making a video in the car, but it's the appropriate place to make the video because I was driving after dropping my kid off to school, well, both of my kids off to school the other day, and I was thinking about what had happened the previous week when the person called my daughter and I N-words. And I'd had a nightmare the night before, so I was already kind of in my feelings a little bit. And I was talking to God about the feelings I had. And after I dropped the kids off to school, I could feel this anger building up inside of me. And I didn't want to feel the anger, but I also don't resist anger when it shows up. I try to listen, see where it's guiding me. And I had to go to the grocery store to pick something up. And when I was getting out of the car, I noticed the picture of my oldest, the one that was with me with the whole N-word incident. And even though she's almost an adult, this feeling came over me of she's still my baby. And even though I've been a dad for 18 years almost, I have never, all these feelings are still new. Like I don't project into um, the future. I try to stay as present as I possibly can. So all the feelings I feel for everything are feelings I felt for the first time. And so here I am with a kid that's bound for college soon and realizing that even though she's an adult, she really does still feel like my baby. And I I didn't grow up with a lot of tenderness And I got some every once in a while from different folks, not so much my parents. And so some of these feelings, I don't know. Like, it's not like I felt them and then said, "Oh, okay, I feel these feelings, and now I'm gonna share somebody these feelings that I've had." Is more like, "Oh, I never really had that, and now I'm trying to give someone something I never had." So I felt that feeling, and I ain't gonna lie, even like I feel like I'm about to do right now, I started crying at the thought that somebody uh, would project nastiness onto my kids. And I can handle quite a bit. I've been through quite a bit. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't like the thought of somebody making my kids feel some kind of way or trying to make my kids feel some kind of way. And for a moment, I was deeply infected by the hate that someone aimed at my daughter. I took it into myself and wanted to give it back to the people who put the hate out. So I wasn't feeling thrilled, and I was at the same time praying and asking God, don't let me get this hate in me to a point where I'm toxic, because that's not going to do anybody any good either. So I basically was trying to transmute that feeling, as I've said in previous posts, and I guess uh, give it to God and try to transform it. And I had already done it with the song, but it just wasn't enough. I thought it was, but it wasn't. And the anger started building, and I was pretty mad at white people, especially white dudes, because all the things. No offense to my white friends, but I was feeling it deeply, as I imagine you all who want to protect your children, and you might use some cowardice to try to protect them, and a bunch of lies and illusion and weakness, but you still got the same motivation. You're trying to protect your kids. You're not protecting them, but that's what you want to do. And I want to protect my kids from y'all, because those of you who are, you know, weak people who think you're strong, you're the worst, because you don't have any rationality. And I don't want to become irrational just like you guys. So I was praying to God, asking God to send me some love or something. And as I was driving, I came across this homeless guy uh, named Jonathan Micah. And I've seen Jonathan quite a few times. My kids have been with me when I've talked to him. My daughter loves him because uh, her name and his name are very similar. So when I saw him, I took it as a sign, and I decided I would go get him some breakfast and talk to him and tell him what I experienced and what I was dealing with. And I was glad I did. It was very interesting. He one of the funny things, I straight up told him, like, I didn't even sugarcoat or anything. I was just like, yo, I was in Massachusetts. I was with my kid. We were having our daddy-daughter day. I was feeling really good about our time together, and then it got interrupted by some racist calling us niggers. And then his eyes looked so tender, and he was like, he looked and he shook his head, and he said, man, no, I'm from Appalachia. I didn't know he's from Appalachia. But he was like, I'm from Appalachia. You know, well, we're stupid. I was like, what the? I did not think he was going to say that. And he was like, all my family, they're stupid, man. They're dumb. And he was like, you can't get that mad at dumb people, because they just don't know any better, because they really are stupid. I'm from there. They're really dumb. And then he was like, and then he said, you know what? My wife's black, which I was shocked. He said, you ain't think a white boy from Appalachia have him a black wife, did you? Turns out they're both living in tents and cars together in homelessness. And he told me that he met her in church, and that he went to church because he was feeling down about a bunch of stuff. I won't tell more of his story, but the beautiful part is he went to church, and the pastor said, you know, shake the hand of your neighbor, blah blah blah. So he shakes the hand of his neighbor, and it's this black woman, and he said when he shook uh, her hand, he knew, and she knew, and they've been together ever since. That's pretty dope. I didn't expect to hear that. Then he said, Jesus was black. They don't want you to know it, but he was black. He said, and the most beautiful women in the world are black. I was like, what in the heavens? I did not expect to have this conversation with this dude, this homeless white guy. And he's like, yeah. And he said, even Miss Universe is black, which I didn't even know because I don't pay attention to Miss Universe. And he said, she's the most beautiful woman in the world. He said, so tell your daughter that she comes from the most beautiful women in the world. I said, woo, look at this here, white homeless guy preaching the word. And then he goes, and if anyone ever calls you nigger again, he didn't even try to like pause. He said, you tell them this. He said, man, tell them niggers are like flowers. And I didn't know where this was going. I thought he was going to say, I thought he was going to be like, niggas are like flowers, y'all niggas are beautiful or something. But he said, niggas are like flowers. They come in all shapes, sizes, and colors because anybody can be ignorant. And so you're ignorant. And I was like, wow, that was pretty interesting. And it harkens back to the first time I ever called anybody the N-word myself. And the first person that I ever called the N-word was a white guy because he told me carry his books and said that if it wasn't for the war, his people would still own my people. So I had to carry his books. And then I said, nigga, are you crazy? And then he said, what? You can't call me a nigga. I'm not a nigga. You a nigga. I said, I'm not a nigga. You a nigga. Because my mom told me that nigga just meant ignorant person. And so I wasn't allowed to say it, so I hadn't said it. But she said it meant ignorant person. I didn't want to call anybody ignorant. But when that guy said what he said, that's what I called him. That was the first time I ever said it. So it's funny when Jonathan Micah said that. It brought me back to what my mom said. And there was a treasure in that too. And then, this man prayed with me, told me a bunch of beautiful things. And when I tell you that he was full of love and light, man, I'm telling you, I started crying. I ain't gonna lie about it. And then on top of it, besides all of that, he told me his story. I had heard it before about how he ended up on the streets. And unfortunately, it was because of an encounter with the police where he got stopped for not going that fast, but he fussed at the cop because he was white, so he thought, "Yeah, I get away with this." And they damaged him and dislocated his shoulder, and he couldn't work for a couple months and lost his business and lost everything and ended up on the streets. So that sucks for him and the world, I guess. But what's funny or not funny is he told me that he thought that that's exactly where he should be because before when he was making a lot of money and he said he used to pass by homeless people and say, how can anybody find themselves on the streets? How can anybody end up homeless? Blah, blah, blah. And he had a list of reasons why he thought no one could end up homeless. It didn't make sense to be homeless in America. And he said that he asked that question and God answered it because he kept saying how they're going to end up homeless, yada, yada, yada. So he found out how they ended up homeless because he became homeless as well. And he said that he felt that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. And his eyes were like gleaming with tears. And he said, thank you for coming and talking to me, sharing your thoughts with me and everything. And he shared some, some Bible words and stuff. But he said that he knew he was exactly where he was supposed to be on that street corner because all he wanted to do was serve God and follow God and be where God called him to be. And God called him to be on that street corner so that he could be there to talk to me in that moment. And you know what? That was my freaking experience too. So they say that when you entertain angels or entertain strangers, you might be entertaining angels unaware. And in that moment, with all the crap, it seems that God made angels out of me and Jonathan Micah. And for that, I'm grateful. Now, is my anger gone from experiencing the racism and all this other stuff? No. But the Bible also says, anger, but do not sin. And sin means to miss the mark. And so, even though I'm angry, I'm going to aim it directly and sharply and surgically in love. So, I'm going to be angry, but I'm not going to miss the mark. That's where it is. Peace.